So, I saw Quantumania. I've lost the will to live. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania released in theaters on Friday, and I went to see it day one. I thought, this was going to be good. It's going to be the start of Phase 5. Phase 4 kind of sucked, but we're officially on the road to Secret Wars now. So let's do this. And it sucked. Like, really, really badly. Quantumania was atrocious. It was a mess. It was incredibly underwhelming. It didn't deliver its themes, had underdeveloped characters and motifs, and at its heart, felt like they didn't give a single damn. This film had my hopes set so high for Marvel in Phase 5 because it actually looked pretty good. I was excited to see Kang on the big screen as the main villain for an MCU movie, but it was just a disappointment. But why? Why was the film so bad? Well, let's get to it. This video will contain spoilers for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Before I absolutely slate this film, I want to talk about some of the stuff that I actually enjoyed from the movie, because it wasn't all that bad. It did have some good things attached to it. I thought the whole story with Janet Van Dyne getting stuck in the quantum realm was explored really well here. It's been one of those mysteries since the first ever Ant-Man movie, and I think it was paid off pretty well. Janet is by far the most interesting character in this film. She is scared of something. She is scared of what may happen if they go back to the quantum realm. And I really like how this sets up Kang in the first half of the movie. We'll get to Kang a little bit later in the video, but the way that they talk about him really instills a fear in you that this is the real deal. There is something to be scared of. There is a monster under the bed type thing. It's a technique that I wish a lot more superhero films would utilize to build their villains up, because I think it makes for a much more engaging and interesting dynamic between protagonist and antagonist if there is a shroud of mystery surrounding the villain. It makes them so much more interesting as a character, and not only that, but it builds them up to be much more of a threat. In all honesty, the whole film should have just been about Janet Van Dyne. The concept of her being scared to return to the quantum realm based off her previous experience is so engaging in this movie, and you really have to watch the movie to understand what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it. And I wish that they ran with that instead. Anyway, let's move on to the bad. Buckle up. This is gonna get hefty. So let's start with our main protagonist then, shall we? Scott Lang. Scott is a nightmare of a character in this film, and it breaks me to say that since he's one of my favorite characters in the whole universe. His character almost has nothing to do and is only there because his name is in the title of the film. His character doesn't learn anything internally. His character doesn't really seem affected mentally or spiritually by the events that have transpired. Yeah, by the end of the film, he seems slightly worried that Kang may return, but then they just play it off as a joke when they could have done something that could have been truly engaging and made the character way more interesting come the end of the film. Scott going through that experience could be terrified at the idea that Kang may return at some point. Maybe even obsessed with the return to the point where his character almost does a 180. We know him as this comic relief character, he jokes a lot, he's very light-hearted, but he could become darker, grittier, a different character altogether just because of this one event that took place in the quantum realm, just because he is scared of Kang coming back. That would have been interesting, that would have shown character growth, but no, the writers just play it off as a joke. He'll be fine, he doesn't have to worry about it, it's okay, it's not like Kang's gonna come destroy the multiverse or anything, it's fine. I think it's also telling that the ending narration parallels the first narration in the film in more ways than just it was a paralleled scene. Scott literally recites the same thing that he did at the start of the film, stating that life is weird sometimes. Yeah, we know, Scott, we've also learned that you're a terrible character too. This one scene alone screams that they had no idea where to take Scott's character during this film. He didn't change. He wasn't taken in any interesting or engaging direction. The only thing he really had going on was his relationship with Cassie during the start of the film. This relationship could have been the focal point of the film and could have worked really well as the emotional anchor of the movie. And I truly believe that that was their intention, but it did not pay off that way. They didn't give enough screen time to that relationship because they were too busy pondering over exposition to get to the quantum realm. You see, it annoys me because of how much potential that this relationship had after the snap, especially in Avengers Endgame. But much like Scott's character, their relationship doesn't evolve or even devolve in any significant way, and likewise, Cassie is also a character that is very pointless in this film as a result of this. She doesn't provide any purpose other than plot convenience. The emotional side of her character character that they tried to play with was the fact that she was a bit of a rebel. However, the caveat is that she was more of a vigilante type, where the reason she ended up in jail was because she wanted to help those in need. Something that Scott seemed to be unaware of because he's too caught up in his book and being famous. Okay, that's a great start. We've set up some emotional tension, Scott has some character flaw, Cassie has a good heart but maybe doesn't go about it in the right way. These are good staples for characters, and we can evolve from here. This is great. But then they never return to it or reflect back on this arc later in the film. They don't expand upon what they set up at the start of the film. At the end of the film, in what felt like they were trying to make it Cassie's point of realization, she says to MODOK, "You have to look out for the little guy." They played this off as if it was the point in which her character switched and developed, but that was literally the moral and ethical ground that they started her off with at the start of the film. So if anything, she didn't change at all. She just had the same stance all the way throughout. No attempt to change her character and develop her was made. She was so static and boring. The one thing that they did come back to and did reflect over come the end of the movie was the idea that Scott has missed so many of Cassie's birthdays, so they give her a fake birthday party towards the end of the film. And even though this was a reflection of something that was set up at the start of the film, I just feel like it didn't have any weight to it. And that's because they didn't put any effort into developing any character tension between the two, so it made this moment all the more satisfying when it was eventually paid off at the end of the film. It more or less felt like a desperate attempt to fill the void of poor character work. There are inklings of really good characters here. There is a potential for great characters and great relationships and character drama, but it's all either not paid off, not explored enough, or straight up just ignored for the rest of the screen time. It really saddens me because some great character stuff has come from the snap in the MCU before, like what they did with Tony Stark and Spider-Man's relationship, what they did with Wanda in WandaVision, what they did with Monica Rambeau, what they did with Sam and Bucky after Endgame as well. But Cassie was underused, underutilized, especially since she was one of the characters that would have been severely affected by the snap as well. Both Scott and Cassie were really weak characters in this film. What were their wants? What are their needs? Scott Lang wants to be famous and recognized for his book. Okay, that's a decent start. What's his need? I don't know, it's very unclear. The same goes for Cassie. When it comes to screenwriting, wants and needs are a crucial and essential part of what makes a good and engaging character. Just as John York says in his book on screenwriting, Into the Woods, the relationship between what a character wants and their outer facade, between what they need and their inner vulnerabilities, their complete character, in other words, is inevitably linked to dramatic structure. And this is something that is not present for either Scott or Cassie in this film. Their wants and their needs make dramatic storytelling. Their wants and their needs make dramatic structure and give the film purpose. If we don't have those dramatic elements of those characters, what even is this film? It's just a film about a couple of people with superpowers fighting a multiversal time-traveling bad guy. There is no substance to this film whatsoever for our main protagonists, which is why it falls flat in so many places. Their wants and needs are either not present in this film at all, or at least they're not prevalent enough or explored enough during this screen time. And that leads me on to possibly my most disappointing character in this film, Kang the Conqueror. Now, people have been saying that Kang is the best part of this film, but I think that's a complete and utter lie. I think they meant that Jonathan Majors was the best part of this film. I will touch on this a little later when I come to the performances, but Jonathan Majors carried Kang's character in this movie all the way. The character of Kang himself, you see, like I said in my introduction, Kang was actually being built up as this threat, as this looming, horrifying, skin-crawling villain, which I really liked and I was a really big fan of this. But when he finally showed up on screen, it was nothing but disappointment. I didn't feel like Kang was written good at all. If the standard for the MCU big bads is Thanos, then Kang severely pales in comparison. Kang is so underdeveloped. I really liked Kang in Loki because he proposed the idea that there was something more than the man that we saw sat in front of us on our screen, like there was something big coming. But in a lot of ways, I have more questions now than answers. Like, why was this Kang banished? Was it because he was destroying timelines? But isn't that what the Kang Dynasty in the post-credit scene is planning to do anyway? Like, kill the Avengers? I know I could very much just be missing something very crucial about Kang's character, but I really feel like I'm not. Like, are these valid questions? Like, what is Kang's actual motivation? Where does the emotional substance to his character come from? When they wrote Kang's character, it felt like they were trying to make him very cryptic, but because there was no depth to him and he was very two-dimensional at best, it just came off as lazy and unjustified. He mentions in the film how he's lost so much before, like they wouldn't even know. But why? How? Show us these things so we can understand why Kang has something against destroying other timelines. Show us why we can sympathize with the character and so we can see his point of view. Some of the things he says are also really stupid. One of his first lines of introduction was, "Have I killed you before?" Eh? Do I even need to explain why this is stupid? Come on now. There's no complexion, no motif, no rhyme or reason, just stupidity. Kang is one of the worst villains in the MCU to date, and it's not even close. And I'm really tired of the MCU underdeveloping their main antagonists. And in some cases now, their protagonists too. There is more confusion I have coming out of this film than I have answers, and I'm just so disappointed that he wasn't one of the better characters. I mean, there wasn't many good characters in this movie, but Kang was one of the bad ones. Okay, so now that my thoughts are out there about Kang, let's just briefly touch on some of the other characters in this film as well. Let's talk about Hope Van Dyne. She has no purpose whatsoever, and her name is literally in the title. I'm just surprised that we didn't actually get more of her and Scott's relationship in the film. The only moment of any significance that we got was the final I love you scene that they had together after everything was going down. But it felt so random and out of place. Did I miss something? Was there any tension set up between these two characters? Were they disagreeing on something? Was there something that I missed? Did they finally have to realize their love for each other or something? I'm really confused. This moment was played off as something really significant, but it came off unearned, unjustified, and unnecessary. Was there any narrative rhyme or reason to this moment? Was it a payoff? I don't know. It was certainly weird though. I understand that if their relationship was a key part of the film and was one of the focal points, I'd 100% understand this moment. This would be brilliant. But in terms of Hope's character and even Scott's character in some capacity, it was just pointless. There was nothing. I mean, let's just put it like this. If you weren't an Ant-Man fan, or an MCU fan for that matter, and this was your first time watching an Ant-Man film, after the first couple of minutes, there is literally no indication that they are in any way kind of relationship together, which I think is really weird because they're meant to be in love. And Scott even expresses this love at the end of the film. But it felt really random because it was meant to be like this significant moment for both characters, as if it was a payoff to something. But it didn't really pay off anything. Anyway, Hope was pointless, and they really did her dirty in this film. She definitely deserved better. Now let's briefly talk about MODOK. Jesus Christ. There is nothing I want more than to wish this character's demise. None of the jokes were funny, all the dialogue was cringe, his backstory was stupid, they completely butchered Darren Cross as a character too, and his whole thing of being Kang's understudy was completely taken as a joke. I get that he was meant to be funny, he was meant to be comic relief, and the fact that he's a massive floating bad CGI'd head is comical, but come on guys! MODOK is the literal and metaphysical representation of why the MCU is undeniably sickening at its current state. That's all I'm gonna say here. Okay, so let's talk about the plot and the narrative choices that this film makes as well. Once again, like Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness, the convenience of some of the plot contrivances are so poor. Like, for example, the ants being able to defeat Kang. Now, all things in consideration, the ants coming back towards the end of the film is actually not that bad of a narrative choice, and I'll explain why. In fact, it displays a level of competence when it comes to screenwriting and storytelling. The ants are being set up at the start of the film to come back for the end of the film and to have a payoff. And this is something in screenwriting that is called a plant and a payoff. As discussed by Zara Weldbeck and Craig Batty in their theoretical book on the creative screenwriter, they discuss, and I quote, "A plant is a dramatic element that is seeded in somewhere in the early stages of the screenplay," which then leads them on to saying that, and I quote, "Towards the end, it finds a natural and meaningful resolution," which in this case would be the payoff. So the ants are introduced and are revisited towards the end of the film. Even though in screenwriting practice this does line up theoretically, the way it's executed is poor. Apparently, the whole reason why the ants stand any chance against Kang is because they went through time dilation in the quantum realm and have developed 2,000 years into the future. Oh no, if that isn't convenient, I don't know what is. If you guys don't know, Michael Douglas came out and said that if he was to come back as Hank Pym, they'd want Marvel to kill him off, suggesting that he doesn't want to come back. I believe this is the sole reason as to why. This whole explanation as to why the ants are able to help the gang at the end of the film gives somehow Palpatine Returned a run for its money. Either way, this is shocking storytelling. And even worse, the ants were the ones that managed to overpower Kang in the first place, which... Speaking of Kang, his power base is all over the place. I get the idea that Stan Lee proposed when he said that whoever wins is whoever the storyteller wants to win, right? But isn't it slightly counterintuitive if taken too literally? Like, if a freaking ant beats Kang, the freaking Conqueror, maybe, just maybe, hear me out, That's poor writing. This guy is meant to be able to beat the Avengers. Guys, come on. Kang manages to take out multiple people from the rebellion in one clean swoop. And the power that enables him to do this is literally disintegration. Yet, when he comes up against the main three, he has multiple chances to kill them on the spot. The same way that he claims he has done to multiple different Avengers across multiple different timelines. But guess what? He doesn't. Once again, not only is this poor writing, it also goes against the show don't tell rule. We got told that Kang has killed multiple Avengers in the past. We got told that Kang has eliminated multiple timelines. But we don't get shown his power in real time. They don't even show us why Kang is such a threat. He should have just killed Cassie, Scott, and Hope. I'm not gonna lie, they were better off dead. They should all just be toast, but no, they need them for Kang Dynasty. Jesus Christ, it's bad. It's not bad, it's terrible. Okay, you know what? For some consolation, let's talk briefly about the performances, because I think they do need a mention. On the most part, the performances were pretty good, especially from Paul Rudd, Jonathan Majors, and Michelle Pfeiffer. But Catherine Newton? I don't know what it was, but she didn't seem all too in it with this film. Her performance felt emotionless and uninspiring and was just plain bad. Like she didn't want to be there sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, Catherine Newton is a great actress. I've seen her in other stuff, like The Society, where she was actually really good. But this, she just wasn't. I don't know if it was because she was constantly acting in front of a green screen and maybe she found it difficult or something. I don't know. I don't act. But she just wasn't good. All in all, this film made me lose more hope for the MCU. I drew the line at She-Hulk, but I'm drawing a thicker line here. I know I could just stop watching, but I love these stories and I love these characters. And to be honest, it's a shame that they get butchered like this. I just hope, and I really, really hope, that we can get back on track. I want to say it's not too late, but from the weak Kang setup and the way that the MCU consistently seems to write its stories nowadays, it seems like we're in for a bumpy ride in the next phases. Anyway, thanks for watching this video essay. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you are new. Make sure to join the members club if you want to get my videos exclusively early. And you can get a bunch of other perks as well, including getting your name at the end of every single video. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.